Imagine being thousands of feet above the ground, trapped above the clouds, and realizing your plane has no fuel left. The engines sputter, the cabin goes eerily silent, and the lives of everyone on board hang in the balance. This is the harrowing reality faced by the crew and passengers of a doomed flight, a story of courage, quick thinking, and the relentless pursuit of survival in the most dire circumstances. In today's video, we recount the gripping tale of a flight that found itself stranded above the clouds, running out of fuel and running out of time. How did it happen? And how did the crew fight to bring their plane and their passengers back to safety? The story begins with what should have been a routine flight. The aircraft, a commercial jetliner with over 100 passengers on board, was en route to its destination on a clear, sunny day. The crew, experienced and well-trained, had no reason to suspect that this flight would be anything other than ordinary. But hidden behind the calm exterior of the flight plan, a series of unnoticed errors were already setting the stage for disaster. It started on the ground. During pre-flight checks, the fuel calculations showed a discrepancy, but it was dismissed as a minor miscalculation. No alarms were raised, and the plane was cleared for departure. As the flight took off and climbed to cruising altitude, everything seemed normal. The engines hummed steadily, and passengers settled in for the journey. But behind the scenes, the fuel levels were depleting faster than anticipated. The crew, unaware of the situation, continued with their planned route, believing they had sufficient reserves to complete the flight. Hours into the journey, the first signs of trouble emerged. A low fuel warning light illuminated in the cockpit. The captain and first officer exchanged concerned glances but remained calm. They quickly consulted their instruments, trying to make sense of the warning. At first, they suspected a faulty sensor. Fuel levels were rarely an issue on modern flights, and the idea of running out of fuel seemed almost unthinkable. But as time passed, the warnings became impossible to ignore. The fuel levels continued to drop, and the crew realized that they were facing a critical situation. With no immediate airports within range and the plane already above the clouds, the options were limited. The first course of action was to contact air traffic control. The captain declared an emergency and requested vectors to the nearest airport. Controllers on the ground scrambled to find a suitable landing site, but the nearest runway capable of handling the aircraft was hundreds of miles away. The race against time had begun. At this point, the crew had to make critical decisions. The captain ordered the shutdown of non-essential systems to conserve power and reduce fuel consumption. The passengers were informed of a technical issue, but the full extent of the situation was not disclosed. Minutes later, the worst-case scenario unfolded. The first engine sputtered and died, leaving the plane with just one functioning engine. With fuel levels continuing to drop, it became clear that the second engine would not last much longer. As the aircraft glided silently above the clouds, the pilots prepared for an emergency landing. The checklist for a fuel starvation scenario was initiated, but there was no denying the grim reality. The crew needed a plan, and they needed it fast. The decision was made to attempt a landing at a small, rural airstrip that was not designed for planes of this size. It was the only option within reach, and the crew would have to execute a near-perfect landing to avoid disaster. With both engines now out of fuel, the plane was essentially a massive glider. The captain and first officer worked together, using their training and skill to maintain control. The descent was harrowing, with the ground coming into view through breaks in the clouds. On board, passengers braced for impact. Some prayed, others clung to their loved ones, and many simply closed their eyes, waiting for what felt inevitable. As the plane approached the makeshift runway, the crew faced one final challenge: the descent angle was too steep. The captain executed a series of skillful maneuvers to bleed off speed while maintaining control. The landing gear was deployed manually, and the plane touched down with a bone-jarring impact. The aircraft skidded down the short runway, its tires screeching as the pilots fought to keep it on course. It finally came to a stop just yards from the end of the tarmac, its nose pointed precariously toward a nearby field. Remarkably, everyone on board survived. The passengers erupted into applause and tears as the crew announced that the danger had passed. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, ready to assist, but there were no major injuries. The pilots were hailed as heroes for their calm, decisive actions under pressure. In the aftermath, investigators uncovered the root cause of the incident. A series of human errors during pre-flight fuel calculations had gone unnoticed, compounded by a miscommunication between ground crews and the flight deck. The fuel tanks were never properly filled, and the aircraft had departed with just enough fuel to get airborne, but not enough to reach its destination. The airline implemented sweeping changes to its fuel management protocols, introducing additional checks and redundancies to ensure that such a mistake could never happen again. Pilots were also given enhanced training for fuel-related emergencies, ensuring they would be prepared to handle similar situations in the future. For the passengers and crew, the experience was a sobering reminder of the fragility of air travel and the immense skill required to navigate life-threatening situations. While the outcome was ultimately a success, the incident left an indelible mark on everyone involved. So, what can we learn from this story? It's a testament to the importance of preparation, communication, and composure under pressure. It's also a reminder of the incredible resilience and resourcefulness of the human spirit. Thank you for joining us as we explored this remarkable tale of survival above the clouds. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth looks at aviation history. Let us know in the comments, what would you have done in this situation? And how do you think the aviation industry can continue to improve safety? Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.